There are two methodologies that I'd like to share with you now that we have proven to be very effective over the years. One is where you're able to go through and introduce the heat at the front door. We have covered the front door with a thermal blanket that forces the air out low. The reason for that is bed bugs do not have wings and they do not fly. Typically, during the heat treatment, they will drop to the floor and try to migrate out of the heat treatment area. This is why we showed you probing on an outside wall, which has a window, typically going to be cooler, and down between the carpeting and the baseboard, which is where they might migrate. When I force the air out, and this is the only opening we have in this structure right now, and when I force the air out low, it prevents a stratification or a layering of heated air on the ceiling, because the only place it can get out is low. And so this works very well for effective treatments, and we believe it is a good technique for you to employ whenever possible. So, number two, you can see that we have attached a return air from the inside of the treatment to the back of the intake. We do not cover the entire intake, we're covering about 3/4 of it, and we are sucking from the inside treatment air in through this ducting into the intake and what we call our energized air, which is what we call energy or heat inside the tube, the barrel of the heater, and inside the ducting until it exits and becomes treatment air. Now, this particular vent duct or return air duct is not connected to anything. We have simply laid it inside the treatment area where it is drawing air and creating a much more aggressive vortex and circulation of heated air. It will use less fuel, especially in freezing climates, and it will shorten your treatment time and improve the movement and vortex of that heated air, because you're bringing it out in a more aggressive manner than it would on its own. So these are techniques that will serve you. So we just laid it inside here, and it could be, the ducting could go on top of the heater, it doesn't matter. In this case we had a wide enough doorway, but you can make it work just as we have. As you can see here, when you're pulling so much liquid petroleum gas, the LPG, off of the tank and out and heating the heater, the inert temperature of propane is about 65 below zero. And when you pull the liquefied off so quickly, you end up with a block of ice inside the tank. No fuel will be able to come up and be used on your heater, and your heater will stop. Now, there are a couple of remedies for this. We recommend a dual propane connector hose that my Director of Technical Services will talk to you about, where you're pulling off of two tanks simultaneously, both tanks wide open, but you'll only use part of both tanks. If this tank were placed closer to where the exit air was coming out, it could prevent this from happening or slow it down. When this begins to happen, your temperatures will drop on your heater, and you'll notice that the temperatures are dropping because there is less fuel to feed the burner inside the propane heater. So you have to be cognizant of this phenomenon as it occurs during your treatment. Now, if this tank were closer to where the exit area is, right by there, it would warm over this and slow this process down. Another short term, you could get hot water and throw on it, or you could get a hose and throw on it like this, and this will work in your warmer climates, but this isn't going to work in areas where you have sub-freezing temperatures and it won't work. But you can see that this mitigates the problem for a while. You can, in times past, we've actually put a garden hose up here where it's just trickling down and preventing it. What we feel is a better solution is the dual propane connector hose. And I'm going to have my Director of Technical Services explain how that would work for the time being.
This is the dual tank connection hose that Dr. Linford spoke about earlier. What this hose allows you to do is hook 2 tanks into a single regulator. What would happen here is we would remove this sleeve that actually goes into this tank and replace it with this dual connector that would actually go into this red regulator, which would then go into the machine. And on each end of this, you have propane connections that would then connect to the 2 tanks. What that does is it splits the liquid propane load between 2 tanks, which allows both tanks to feed the machine, which A, makes it run more efficiently, and B, eliminates the freezing that we discussed earlier. Real simple to install, but it'll solve you a lot of problems down the road, and it'll also allow you to do more treatments and get more treatments out of your propane because you're not putting the demand on the tank. And it's also a lot easier on your equipment because the equipment's not calling for propane that it can't get because it's freezing up and blocking out. So the best fix and the permanent fix for this particular application would be the dual tank connection.